Thank you for joining me for today's Gaia Wisdom video blog. Hi. So this video blog, I've actually put it off for a week and a half now, and partly because I just wasn't sure how to respond or how to create a video blog that wasn't political, or I had to get out of the emotions that I'm feeling in regards to it, and Buddha's here to help me get out of the emotions of it. I probably should walk so that she can feel like we're moving. In tragedy we love. That's what I named my meditation that goes with this video blog. And it was prompted by a couple of things. One was, the shootings that happened in Orlando that really hit close to home for me. And I also got an email from one of our global change makers of, what words would I have in times like this where we experience these tragedies and the emotions that come up with it or from it. And to be honest, it's, I don't know that I do have words. I don't know that words work anymore. I think that we have gotten past that, where it's the rhetoric from both sides of people who don't want change, people who do want change, people who are fed up and sick of the tragedies that do happen that are senseless and that could be stopped. And so I don't know what the words are. I just know what the feelings are. If you've spent any amount of time on my website, you know that I have gone through my own struggles with, being bullied in high school, and just the whole my being gay and being discriminated against in several different ways. And in my lifetime I have seen the struggles become less for gay people. I remember first coming out in my early 20s and being in Washington, D.C. and fighting for my rights. And when I would participate in the gay pride marches, there were many times, many years, where hecklers on the sidelines were yelling that I would go to hell, we would go to hell. And I don't even want to repeat some of the things that were screamed at us, and Bibles thrown at us, and all the different ways in which we were discriminated against. I've lost jobs, I've been nearly raped, I've been kicked out of my apartment, and that was all back in the 80s and 90s. And now it's much easier, or so you think. It is much easier. It's more accepted, but there's a different polarity. And I think this is true for anybody who is part of I don't even want to say minority, it's just part of a group of people that are different than what our world really embraces. And I don't know the words. I know the feelings. I know the feelings really well. I know that feeling of being squashed and being ridiculed and being beaten down, and yet having such enormous, tremendous support. I remember when I first came out that it wasn't easy for my parents when I told them that I was gay, and yet they loved me. They loved me regardless. And when I was being kicked out of one of my apartments that I lived in, and in the midst of moving out, and it was It was clearly because I was gay. The woman who I rented from, her son, came out of the downstairs apartment, and he started yelling at me, calling me all kinds of names, and then acting as if my parents probably didn't know, but my parents did know. And so he thought he was outing me, and he grabbed my dad, and he grabbed my dad because my dad started defending me. And in that moment, I saw how hurt my dad was that I was hurt. And it was such a display of love for me. And even though, you know, it was the temper that got lost and things like that, and, you know, my dad could have really gotten hurt by this man. What I find is that even though we have tragedy, it brings out the absolute best in people and the absolute worst in people. And when you have those two polarities at play, there really isn't a lot of middle ground. It's not like you can say, well, you know, I'm going to walk now. It could be this. There's no middle ground. You either are you're either on one side or you're on the other side. It's not sitting in the middle of the teeter-totter. And you really find that strength in humanity when times like that come together. When those people got shot in Orlando, you know, it's one of the first times that I think many people saw how often or how volatile that is with the discrimination. You know, for some people, they didn't think that it was so bad that whatever. But, you know, it could have been any group of people who got shot. It could have been Muslims. It could have been Christians. It could have been African Americans. It could have been anybody. And that's where, as a collective tribe, we need to stop separating ourselves and putting ourselves into boxes and labeling, you know, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that, I'm that. You know, we're all humans. It's humanity. It's a collective. We are a tribe. And yes, we are all different. That's the beauty of being human, is that we are of the same race, but we are all so different. And we all have such different personalities and different strengths and different weaknesses and different ideas and dreams, and we love differently, we celebrate differently, we do everything differently, but collectively we are an expression of the bigger picture. We're an expression of God, we're an expression of the great mystery. And however diverse we are shows us how diverse that great spirit is. So I know that the shootings in Orlando are not the last. I know that there are going to be many tragedies, whether they are man-made or nature-made. But the beauty that I choose today in this time, that I choose to embrace, is seeing the beauty of the collective whole coming together and loving each other through that. And saying, you know what, it is just about love and humanity and being in our own skin comfortably and being able to embrace somebody else being in their own skin as well. One of the things that I really have come to find is that in tragedy, we're given the chance to really show our ability to be human, to be spiritual, to be God, to be connected. Some people fail miserably at that test. And other people, you know, when you least expect it, the least likely of person to stand up and fight for you does. And that's not something that you often see unless you go through a tragedy, unless you have that opportunity, unless you have. You know, it's being able to take away those lines, those boxes, and accepting yourself for who you are. And that's a big part of it too, I think, is just being able to accept who you are and be okay with that and not have to hide. So again, I don't have words, I just have feelings, and I know this probably seems really muddled because being able to put into words those feelings is really, it's difficult because it's such a personal thing for me because of who got shot in Orlando. It's such a political, it angers me, it frustrates me, it gives me hope when I see love that comes out of it. And those are all very contrasting feelings to have. But those are the only words I have. I would set forth a couple of challenges for you. One is to be absolutely 100% unapologetically yourself. Be who you are, be authentic, be truthful, speak your truth, and love fiercely, and stand up for those who are experiencing injustices from others. We've got to stand up for other people in addition to ourselves. We're meant to be a tribe. We're meant to do this together, not alone. And don't sit back from the sidelines and just hope that it gets better. Do something. Do something to make it better. And what that's going to be different for every person. For me, it's speaking my truth. And it's getting out and voting. And it is letting the people know who did stand up for that injustice, to know how much that meant to me. And there's always all these small ways that you can do this, and there's also big ways. So that would be my challenge to you. And I hope that I don't ever have to do another meditation like the one I did this last week to transform that tragedy into love. I don't like doing those meditations. I want to do meditations that focus on empowerment and love. And unfortunately, I know that we'll be back around to this place again. But maybe there'll be more people on one side of the teeter-totter than the other. So anyway, I hope that's helpful.